Not much has gone right for Deion Sanders in Colorado, but he does have some bright stars that could shine next year. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Kevin Borba, host of Locked On Buffs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the business. Joining me today is former Buff himself, Borba and Domineck. JD, we got to talk about the bright things for Colorado, because when you're 3-7, there's not many bright things to discuss. But I will say, even though they lost against West Virginia, there was 4 guys that stood out, and they ended up getting Big 12 Team of the Week honors from PFF. And I think if you're Deion Sanders, with all of the chaos and all of the chatter for people to be fired, and even people calling for him to be fired, which should not happen, by the way, there's got to be some positivity. And Colorado has 4 young stars that I want to discuss with you, just simply in terms of importance. And so let's run through it. Julian Lewis, the quarterback, which, I mean, you texted me and you're like, okay, Juju looks really good. Like you called Juju early in the year, but I think he looked better than I thought even you thought. Omarion Miller, the wide receiver, has sort of been a star all year long. And with a quarterback who could push the ball downfield, it was like, oh, wow, we're getting an even higher level from Omarion. We have Yaya Atia, who's an offensive lineman that has played center, guard, tackle. They've even slapped on number 84 and put him at tight end, made him block over there. And then Brandon Davis Swain, the defensive tackle, defensive lineman. All 4 guys got some major recognition. I want to talk to you about the importance of having key building blocks for a team that this is essentially a rebuild, blow it up kind of year. But having 4 guys, how important is that you could sort of hang your hat on?
That's definitely an important thing. For those guys to win honors, even though they didn't win the game, says a lot about how well they played. Because usually, when it comes to those kinds of awards and those weekly honors and everything, it goes to teams with players that won. You know, it goes to players on teams that won that week. And I've seen it happen multiple times in my career where I've seen a linebacker that I played with have better stats than, the person that was at the that was chosen as the ACC Player of the Week, but we had just lost the game,
Yeah.
So that gives, and that should be emphasized a lot for them, actually, because of the rare instance that actually occurs. For that to be also true freshmen or young guys coming into the game and, not getting too many snaps and automatically being on that first list, that shows a lot about their character. Especially for Juju. He comes in, he throws over 200 yards as a true freshman quarterback going in, just playing against a Division I program, and he balls out. Omarion Miller, we've seen him. He was a baller since day one when he first got there, when I was there. So that's no surprise that he's back on that list. But being able to really capitalize with him, with Juju, that's truly great to see. And he's definitely going to be a huge weapon for Juju this year, for the rest of the remainder of this year, and going into next year. Yaya, the offensive lineman, he's a real switch guy. They definitely know everything about him. You said he plays center, guard, tackle, tight end. The man's played every position on the line, and he does it well. He smiles through the whole thing. And he plays his butt off, So it's it's a lot. I love that he's able to go in there, even though they were down 2 tackles this whole game. He was able to go in there, show that he is a great offensive lineman, great PFF, great at the end of the game. And I feel like they definitely need to use him a lot more as a building block. And a lot of other linemen around the country, as well as on the team, should learn from him and honestly give the same amount of effort that he gives every play. And then the big baby tackle down in the middle. I love it. I love seeing defensive linemen get nitty and gritty. And he definitely had a game. He had 4 tackles, 1 sack, I believe, 1 TFL,
He's
and what was it?
looking good.
Yeah, he was looking great that game, and I definitely enjoyed watching him play. Uh, for them, those 4 are definitely crucial in this rebranding of Colorado, so to speak, because that's the era that they're in right now. They wouldn't say I've chalked this up this season as an L, but right now it's time to really learn, okay, who can play, who can't, who wants to be here, who doesn't. And
Right.
this is going to be an evaluation period, not just for the players, but for the coaches as well. We can get more into that later, but right now he's really evaluating and he sees these. I would say these 4 have truly earned, how do you say, a spot on the team,
Okay.
so to speak. They've earned kudos from Coach Prime. They've earned kudos from the Big 12. And Honestly, they deserve it. They played well, they balled out, and I feel like now they have to just stack games because we already know that Juju was always going to be a baller. We
Mhm.
figured that he played way better than I expected, especially in his first game. He just has to stack weeks onto that. He going into this bye week, he knows what he needs to do. He needs to talk, rest, and recuperate. He needs to get in there with his quarterback coach and just go over film, watch things, see how he can improve his game from week to week as a true freshman. Omarion Miller, same thing for him, but we've known that he's been a baller and he's been showing that he is the kind of guy that Coach Prime wants ever since he recruited him.
You just got to
So
cut back on the penalties. He's leading the
exactly.
team in penalties, and it's kind of crazy for a wide receiver to do that. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, this dude, like you're holding, you're false starting. It's like it's very rare, and he's such a good talent. I think he could realistically be one of the best wide receivers in college football next year. He just got to cut down on little mental mistakes. I wanted to run something by you because you know how this current era is. All four of these guys really good for Colorado. So other programs are taking notice. Other programs are going to come knock and they're going to come sliding into the DMs. First of all, tell me how that process worked. Well, actually, let's talk about how important it is for Colorado to keep them. And then talk
Mhm.
to me about the back channeling of college football because I know you've experienced it.
I can't tell you about the back channeling of college football. I don't understand anything about that world. It's never
Okay.
happened for me.
Okay.
Um, I can say that it does happen, and coaches will somehow get a hold of certain players' numbers
Mhm.
and just message them, see if they can poach them, see if they can recruit them, and
Yeah.
they'll use players to try and convince them to come over. It's a lot of things that can happen. It's never just straight the coaches. They
Right.
use different methods and medias to get through, so that way it's not like, oh, I recruited him. It was more so outside sources talked to this player and he decided that his best option was to transfer to this school.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's definitely going to be a huge thing for them to be able to keep their players for Colorado because they are the foundation, honestly, of Colorado's season next year. They had a quarterback, a wide receiver, an offensive lineman, and a defensive lineman. Those are four core positions that you truly need leaders for. And I feel like those four can be brandished as the leaders of this team right now.
Mhm.
Um, that being said, it is extremely important for Coach Prime and everybody to keep both the recruits that they have and the recruits that they evaluate that they feel don't give up on the season. And even though we're putting the emphasis on these four players mainly because I feel like they're going to be, the best players to come out of Colorado. I guess you could say this year and next year, the building foundation, as I said.
Mhm.
But I definitely believe that having those four players along with whichever players have the mentality, the mindset, and the capability to play in Coach Primes's offense, defensive, his entire football scheme. They have to put an emphasis on keeping those players, getting rid of the players that don't have that, and recruiting the same players that you know have the mentality that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And it's definitely going to be an emphasis on those four specifically because Juju, he is truly the future franchise quarterback of
Mhm.
anywhere he goes, honestly. Like I feel like he can really develop into a great quarterback that could be NFL worthy. Omarion Miller, he's already showed that he has NFL capabilities in his receiving. And the offensive lineman, Yaya, and the defensive lineman, I feel like they have shown that they know exactly what they can do and they've shown flashes of the kind of people that they can be and the kind of
Mhm.
players they can be on that field. So
Yeah.
keeping them is definitely a necessity for Coach Prime, I believe, but it's also being able to surround them with the pieces to make each of them flourish.
Yeah, and I think the hard part too is you want to keep everybody, and you also like this is going to be a salty, I guess, moment for Colorado fans. But like Colton Hood, who is a star corner at Tennessee, he ends up at Tennessee out of the blue all of a sudden, and now he's a projected first round pick. Like how quickly a guy can go from like, oh, that guy is going to be a future star for us to like, oh, that guy is now a star for someone else. So like, if that's not a lesson, like Colton Hood scenario, learn from it and make sure that you keep your guys that are talented and want to be there in house. Otherwise, you're going to keep cycling through and finding guys that don't care as much, which Bucky after the game was like, "Yeah, we got guys on the team that I care more than, and I'm a cameraman." Right? That should not be happening, and I think that's sort of a microcosm of their problems this year. We're going to take a quick break, but then we're going to talk about what this bye week means for the Buffs and how they should attack it. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. I myself, first-time homeowner, one of the things I've learned about homeownership is everything breaks. It's really fun. And so Supply House has been there for me as I order parts and get the help to help sort of fix my home. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, the number one podcast network in the business these days. Jordan, let's talk about the bye week. These days in college football, they have two. So it's not just you don't get just one, you get two bye weeks now. And for Colorado, they're in a little bit of a weird spot, right? Because you know you're not making it to a bowl game at 3-7, but you have two games left and you don't want to give up on the season. So how do you think the coaches and the players are addressing this bye week moving forward?
I feel like the coaches themselves are going to be addressing the bye week and attacking it with the same ferocity they've been attacking the whole season. I know the coaches have to be the ones that lead by example, and even if it is faked energy and fake juice, they still have to show that they want to be there. They want to develop their kids, and the season isn't over. The players themselves, it's going to be a toss-up. You're going to have to be able to tell, okay, who is actually coming in here, who's giving effort, who wants to be here, who wants to truly develop and become a better player through these next two games, and then take a good two games into the off season and become better for next year. And you'll see the players that are just there going through the motions, just playing because they have to be there and they're on scholarship or they're just on the team and whatnot. And coach is going to be evaluating that. And he has to realize that, hey, some of these are the weeds and some of these are the flowers. And we need to cut the weeds out of the flowers before everything is contaminated. So a lot of players I feel like are going to be getting the boot from Colorado as they wouldn't have the mentality that Coach Prime has. And
Right.
I feel like a lot of players are also going to be cherished and they're going to be the ones that they keep around and want them in the building around the environment that Colorado is trying to build and that they have built before, that they know they can build and they're trying to rebuild. So it's definitely going to be a lot of, like I said, evaluations. There's going to be a lot of watching, seeing, observing, even over throughout the bye week, because they're going to be practicing over the bye week. Who is going to be in the bye week actually practicing? And even though we don't have a game this week, who's going out there and truly showing out? Who's actually trying to become a better player? And having said that, this bye week is going to be crucial to you know, installing whatever offense that this new offensive coordinator might have. Um, Definitely with Juju at the helm, now that he's played his first game, he can really evaluate and see where he went wrong at in the game, where he did well at in the game. It's going to give him a chance to truly get in rhythm with his offense, and that's something that he's definitely going to need going into these next two games. I definitely feel like the bye week is going to be something that is going to be either very beneficial for Colorado or very detrimental for Colorado.
Okay.
And
That's the hard part. And give us that insight right here. Like how often, because you were on teams that were really good and then you were on teams that struggled, right? How often do you guys quit? Like you don't have to name names or anything, but just like when it gets to this point in the season, it's like, okay, we're not making a bowl game. Percentage wise, like 50% of the roster, and because Colorado's already been called out for quitting on the season. Remember, we talked about it like a month ago. And so now it's like they're literally playing for nothing but pride at this point. So how often or how common is it to see guys quit?
unfortunately, it's more common than you think and a lot more players than you would expect. Not everybody has the mentality of, oh, I want to finish out the season and really, show out and, play. And or a lot of people are out there more though so selfishly or they're playing for the wrong reasons where it's like, oh, all right, the game's over, I don't care about this team, I'm going out there to get my stats and that's that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately that's just the reality of athletes in any given situation where if they feel like they have nothing to fight for, they're not going to fight for anything.
Mhm.
And then there are other players that motivate themselves through, hey, I want to become a better player. I want to be better at this, better at that. I want to get recruited. I want to put good stuff on film. I want to go into this next season with a name for myself, with a chip on my shoulder. And I actually do want to see this team improve. And even if we're only playing these 2 games, can we finish with a 5-7 record? Can we finish with 2 wins? Can we finish on a high note at the end of the season instead of, on a low note? Can we finish by knocking somebody possibly out of the playoffs or possibly out of a bowl game?
Mm.
So it's a different mentality and mindset that you need to come with, especially when you know that you're not really playing for a bowl game.
Mm.
But I do feel like this bye week, like I said, is gonna show you which players are truly, you know, invested
Invested.
into the team and
Yeah.
which players are just going through the motion. And honestly, this next week after the bye game, the next game that they play is gonna show you exactly who wants to be there and who won't. Because games like these, when teams are 3-7, 3-8, 2-9, um, is gonna determine how well you play.
Yeah.
A lot of
No.
people will just give up.
Yeah, and Colorado, I mean, they went into the last bye week off a win over a ranked opponent and then had a huge game against Utah. And we were like, you know what? This is when they get up and this is when they go on a run. And then they get blasted. I think you texted me like WTF just happened. Like that kind of like
Literally,
because
it
it
was
was
bad.
shocking. It was shocking to see how bad they looked. And so it is a little, I think, worrisome if you're like Colorado or the fans in general. It's like, okay, we came off a last bye week off a ranked win and we couldn't get up for Utah. Now we're coming off a bye week after a disappointing loss and we have nothing to play for. And it's like that part's going to be scary. So like Jordan said, we'll see who's really bought in. And I really liked your weeds and the flowers comments because we're going to talk about this literally the next segment, but to sort of tease it, like this is an evaluation period for Coach Prime in terms of players and coaches. Like I think an underrated aspect is coaches could kind of mail it in as well. They could kind of just be like, oh, this is what we're doing now. Like let's get this over with, right? We got 2 weeks and then we're all out of here. That's sort of the vibe that some people could have. And I think if you're Coach Prime, you really need to look around and see who's not doing that, right? Who's not quitting on you, who's still giving it their all, because you want to surround yourself with guys that want to go to war with you, right? You don't want to surround yourself with guys who are fair weather where it's like, if we're doing good, I'm here. I'm locked in. But as soon as things get hard, I'm not locked in anymore, right? Because that's exactly how you end up with a bad culture. That's exactly how you end up with a bad team. And I think there's some fair weather players on this roster is based on what we've sort of gathered from this point. We're going to talk about the importance of replacing coaches and the importance of a position coach. First, quick break. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. Guess what? The NBA, it's back. And guess what? There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets win your first $5 bet win. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Okay, Jordan, let's talk position coaches. I did an episode yesterday where I'm under the impression that Deion Sanders, and he kind of said he's going to make changes this offseason, which I assume will be some coaching changes. I'm under the impression that he needs to make changes, but I don't think a lot of people truly understand the importance of position coaches because I keep seeing like Ray Lewis, for instance, came to town the other day and everyone's like, yes, Ray Lewis, hire him as a coach. And it's like, Ray Lewis is a great linebacker. He has no coaching experience. Talk to me about how important a position coach is in the college football world.
A position coach is extremely important when it comes to not only developing as a player. That's going to be the first go-to guy to you.
Mm-hmm.
He's the main person that knows exactly what your flaws and your weaknesses are, and he's going to be the one to either help you or, in many cases, he's going to be the one that hurts you. And a position coach is detrimental or Oh, it's very a position coach plays a pivotal role in your career. You know,
Mhm.
he teaches you everything that you need to know at a college level. He shows you what your flaws are going to be. He shows you what the little nicks and what fine tunes you need to make to the game. And he's the one that he doesn't ultimately decide your playing time, but he is a huge, huge person when it comes to determining whether a player is ready or not to take the field. The defensive coordinator, although he does overlook the defense as a whole,
Mhm.
your position coach is going to be the one that you go to talk to about everything when it comes to film study, when it
Right.
comes to getting on the field, when it comes to learning, exactly what he wants from you. It's going to be your position coach that you go to first before your defensive coordinator, before the head coach.
Mhm.
And when one position struggles, you might blame it on that position, but ultimately the blame ends up falling on that position coach because they're supposed to be the ones that are teaching you exactly how to be a better player.
Mhm.
So if the running backs can't, if the offensive line is blocking well, but the running backs only get like 2, 3 yards a carry, then there's an issue going on in the backfield that doesn't have to do with the offensive line.
Got
And
it.
now the running back coach is on the hot seat. And vice versa, if the defensive line coach isn't getting any pressure on the quarterback and they're not really being able to stop the run, allowing them to get 5, 6 yards of carry, there's an issue with your defensive line.
Mhm.
And you can evaluate the players as much as you want, but at the end of the day, the blame will fall on that position coach because he's the one that's supposed to be evaluating week in, week out, who is doing well, who's not doing well, what they need to fix, and they should be fixing it as the season goes on.
Yeah, I think moving into this offseason, like Coach Prime finds himself in a very interesting spot because I will say, and like you don't have to comment on this because obviously you played for some of these guys, but I will say some of the people who I think will probably be, or at least should be on the hot seat, are people who seem to be close to him. And you're kind of stuck in this decision of like, do I move on from my good buddy or do I think that we could work it out and sort of progress? And I wanted to get your thoughts on like when you're hiring a new position coach, like what adjustments can Colorado or what adjustments should Coach Prime be looking for in a position coach, right? We don't have to talk about certain positions, but clearly not every position group is performing as well as we thought. So how do you find the right guy?
Um, you take a chance. You base it on their track record of success, how well that they've coached at different places. You get recommendations from, other head coaches as well. And I feel like every coach is also already recruiting coaches as well.
Oh, okay.
They're also already, and they're probably in talks with other coaches at the moment about, hey, this could possibly happen where you could come over here, or they're in contract negotiations right now, like a lot of coaches are, or a lot of people are. And so I feel like it's just a recruiting game again with those coaches. Whether you want to keep your recruits or you want to go a different direction and tell your recruits to hit the transfer portal, And at this point, it is. You said that a lot of people seem to be close to Coach Prime that you believe and the fans believe should be cut from the program. And
Mhm.
I can't really say too much about that
Yeah.
because once again, I only played one position.
Yeah.
But I can see where your argument is coming from, and I can see how you could make a valid argument for it. Um, but at the end of the day, like when you're trying to find a position coach, or you're trying to find a coach that can truly develop a player and develop your team,
Yeah.
that can be an asset and not a hindrance, and not even just on the field, but also off the field. Can your players come and talk to you about, just football things? Are your players, listening to the coach? Do you command respect as a coach?
Yeah.
It's a lot of aspects that go into this in this kind of decision making, and I feel like Coach Prime is already out looking for the right people in the right places.
Yeah.
And
He's got to be, first of all, like you got to be looking because I mean, like you're about to say, like if you get stuck like with these guys, or if you don't look or get ahead of it, you fall behind and you sort of miss out on quality candidates.
you do exactly, and a lot of candidates you've seen a lot of coaching changes at a lot of places, and a lot of people have been misplaced. And right now, I feel like a lot of good coaches are just out in limbo at the moment.
Yeah.
And I feel like Coach Prime knows this, and he's going to go recruit people that he believes will be
Mhm.
um, great for the program, I guess you go so to speak. He
Yeah.
believes that they will bring success to whatever position group he's looking to recruit for.
Yeah. And I think I mean, just because like if you're Coach Prime, just because like a head coach elsewhere got fired, doesn't mean they don't have good position coaches out there, right? There's certain recruiters like the down there in Gainesville, like your neck of the woods, right? The wide receivers coach over there is someone who a lot of people are high on. Penn State's defensive coordinator was, I think, the highest paid defensive coordinator. He left Ohio State for after they won a national championship to take that job. So there's a lot of big names out there. Obviously, Coach Prime's not the only person who needs to revamp his staff, but I mean, it is something that he should definitely consider. And I talked about this yesterday, and a lot of people, I don't think they fully saw the vision, but I mean, that's what it is. I feel like Coach Prime could probably use a little bit of assistance with like a consultant group, whether it's using like someone like Nick Saban as a resource to not just recommend people, but help him with the interview process. I do think that like Nick Saban's interviews are like kind of like legendary, if you will, like Chad Brown. Former Colorado linebacker, was on the show last week, and he was talking about how Nick Saban's interviews were like 8 hours because it's like you interview one-on-one, then they have you draw up plays in front of other coaches, then they have you meet other people throughout the day and sort of see how well you mesh, and then you meet Miss Terry, which is Nick Saban's wife. So you're like constantly seeing how good of a fit you are. And I feel like however Coach Prime evaluates coaches probably needs to be adjusted slightly because this is his third year, and I mean, he had 5 people leave after your year. He had another handful leave after last year, and he's probably going to have to show a few the door this year, right? So clearly there's something where there's constant changes, and you kind of want to figure out a way to find a consistent group. And so easier said than done, but Jordan, pivotal year for the Buffs.
Definitely. And this next year is going to really determine a lot about Coach Prime for Colorado and whether or not, if he does get on the hot seat next year. I'm not saying that it's a huge possibility, but the way that this day and age of football is, people want to win now. And if they're not getting the result that they truly want, then they might look a certain other direction.
Yeah, it's true. No, I mean, everybody, it's kind of like a what have you done for me lately sort of mentality that we have in sports. And neither me nor Jordan think Coach Prime should be on the hot seat despite these like wild social media posts out there. But he does need to fix some things. And that's not a knock on him. It's just like, hey, you tried something, it didn't work. Let's figure out how to fix it. So Jordan, appreciate you hopping on as you do. We will see you guys next week. I'm Kevin Borba. He's Jordan Domineck. And this is Locked on Buffs.